I'm gonna start the podcast with some things that are very dear to me, some fun things like TV programs. I want you to, for those of you guys that are listening, I would have to say the majority of you are of. What I'm saying is those of you that listen at a later time, because of the ones that are hanging out with me live are of a younger crowd, and we get out of hand, or they make me get out of hand sometimes. This happened last podcast towards the end. We're goofing around, so. But I wanted to talk about some TV programs that changed my life. Really make me focus and these programs put ideas in my head, and they encouraged me to try them, and I saw the outcomes of what they were like on the TV programs. And and I would kind of develop this philosophy, if you will, on all of these shows, combined together with all of my experiences of watching every one of these programs, and I kind of picked and choose the stuff that I learned and put it to use in real life. And oh shoot, that reminds me, I better have my phone on. My phone went off. Well, it dinged, but I think I better have my phone on me just in case, because yesterday's podcast there was a funny moment that one of my moderators actually had to call me because I wasn't looking at the chat. So hold on. A small little break. Let me throw in a little commercial while I go get my phone. All right. All right. I got to go get my phone. Ava is here. Ava, I left my phone on my bed. So let me throw a small little 60-second commercial break for the Twitch viewers, and I'll be back. Okay, how we doing on the 25 seconds? 23. What were you doing with your phone in bed? Oh, Jesus. You want me to really talk about this when the commercial ends? But since Ava is here, I got to talk to her about the stuff that I got. No. Okay, I won't. All right, welcome back. For those of you guys that didn't have any subscriptions and all that, welcome back. Ava, those of you guys that are listening, I always have to remind myself that there's people listening to this at a later date and time. But Ava is here in the chat, and I wanted to tell her that I actually got me some snacks, some mixed almonds, pistachios, and stuff like that. But the ones that were really interesting to me were the German almonds, German plain almonds. And I'll show them one more time. And they're it would seem like I have to find out how they're made, because they look like this. It looks like I'm eating a rock. So all of these Here, I'll show a plain one. I'll show a plain one and a German one. So the German one tastes amazing. And I got my mocha latte tea. So I'm all ready to go. And I know I started the podcast, and I know a lot of you guys are like, okay, man, sometimes these podcasts get like a little too personal. Like I'm new here. I don't know who Adam's talking to. And just bear with me. I have to understand that I'm doing this live on Twitch, and I have like over 7 years of history streaming live on Twitch. So there's a lot of people that know me for that many years. And those of you guys that are watching me on YouTube, you guys are just starting to get to know me. The goat is back. For those of you guys that are just tuning in, we had an amazing experience with a viewer called the goat, and supposedly he's 11 years old. But we had a thrilling conversation with this young lad. It was a bit trolly. He was trolling us, we were trolling him, but either way, it was all in good fun. So to go back to the topics of what I want to talk about. There's these shows. There's these shows that I want to tell you guys about that really made an impact in my life. A lot of you guys are interested on my my observation of things and yeah, just like my takes on everything. But how about I tell you about some shows that encouraged me to improve on these inner feelings that I had already, but it's just these shows took me to another level of like courage to actually do what I was truly intending to become as a person. I took down some notes that are very, very silly to me, but I've been wanting to make notes for myself for the podcast, at least, since I don't have any like questions lined up. I wanted to write down some stuff. So I thought of maybe just doing 3 shows that impacted my life. The first one was we'll go for chronological order of how I experienced it. And I'm going to mention a few of these shows, and you're going to go, yes, those are amazing shows. Amazing. But some of you are very young. Some of you guys might have no inclination of what shows I'm talking about, and that's fine. That's not really like the main reason on why I'm telling you this. The main reason is that these shows were tools that helped me become who I am. Believe it or not, television developed who I am today. Who would have known, right? It wasn't the internet. It wasn't Twitch. It wasn't school. It was television programs that your parents try to push you away and scold you for watching it too late. But I was lucky and I escaped, So chronologically, the Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood show. I don't know who turned it on for me. I was at my grandmother's during these times during my younger days, like from an infant to like maybe 8 years old. I absorbed a lot of television content in my grandmother's household. hanging out in the living room, and they would allow me to have my time, because a lot of these shows, a lot of these children educational shows were always in the morning. So I didn't hinder any adults' time on watching their soap operas and their news scheduling programs. So I got lucky. I happened to be a kid. I could watch all the television I wanted. And and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood came on. I had no idea. Yeah, it was just it was a show for kids, so I watched it. At those times, there wasn't a plethora of entertainment available. Back in those days, we had like 2 to 4 channels at the most back then. But now that I got older, I look back at the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood program, and it started a long time ago, man. I was born in 1974, and the show syndicated in like 1975. But even prior to that, it started in Canada. But I took it in, and took it as it was, and I grew up. But all of oh man, we got a new visitor. We got a new visitor in the chat. Jen is Daddy is the name. But hear me out. So I watched all these programs, and I grew up, and I got on the Twitch platform. And one day, not too long ago, I would think like maybe 2 years ago. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this, because I don't want you to go surfing through the Twitch catalogs of videos. But one day, the whole community of Twitch were in understanding that Twitch was doing a free broadcast of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And I'm 45 years old, and I said, what? With the biggest smile. I'm like, what? Twitch is honoring. Twitch did all the proper steps and paid for the rights to show the show, and they just they went chronologically, and they played the shows that they paid royalty rights for, and it was from like the first show to the last show. They even went as far as to I think they might have played the very last show, like in 2001. I think the show ended where he retired, and so they played these shows, and then people subscribed, people followed, and the Twitch staff, the administrators and the moderators, they would say, or even there was hosts that would come on after the program had finished, and they would say, if you're a subscriber, or I don't know how it was. You're right, Mr. Rogers was the best. Jen, I'm not sure if you were there when it actually aired live on Twitch, but it was amazing. You got to understand, you guys, those of you guys on YouTube, you got to understand something about Twitch and the Twitch community. The Twitch community is a living, breathing beast of people. No, you didn't. Okay. All right. And if you think the YouTube comments is rough and you don't bother reading them, that's nothing compared to Twitch. And I'm not saying that it's just a whole mess of trolls in the chat, but I'm just trying to say is we get pretty damn real in the Twitch community when it comes to the chat. And the chat is its own like beast. You got broadcasters and you got entertainers and you got entertainment and all that, but it's like two entities, a living, breathing community that will catch you, that will call you out if you're good or bad, or you mess up. It's just cutthroat. But don't look at it in a bad way. Just saying that it is raw, real, in the moment, live, in your face, up in your gums. They'll call you out. Okay. So the Mr. Rogers program is playing. And the chat, every time it broadcasted, the chat was just going crazy like a ticker feed in the stock market. Just zipping along. You couldn't even like read comments. And then if you did, mind you, if you did click on the chat and stopped it and scrolled back, you would see comments from all creeds of people saying if they were a guy or a girl, and they would say how old they were, and they would say how old are they now, and they were saying how it impacted their life. You would see paragraphs of comments, fucking paragraphs. You wouldn't see little comments. I mean, you would, like, this is awesome, I love this, and all these little fast snippet little freaking little replies. But the majority of it was just a plethora of stories. About the show. And if you donated, I think if you went to a certain degree of support of the Mr. Rogers channel on Twitch, you were given the privilege to call a special number and record your voice and tell your story. Tell your story about Mr. Rogers. And pretty much the question was that was given to you is how did the show impact your life? At the time, I was in a rough spot, and I wasn't in the position to go that far, but I really did. I wish I could have donated, and I could have, but I was thinking about putting gas in my car and what I was going to have to eat the next day. I mean, my life at the time, it was just watching the show was good enough to keep me going. And then when the show finally ended, when the Twitch finally ended the broadcasts of Mr. Rogers, at the very end, those that were there on the very last day, they got to hear. They said they rolled the credits and they gave the names of all the people that donated, and they said, "Please stick around. We'd like to share all of the voicemails." And people stuck around, and the chat was going crazy. And one by one, you started hearing all of the voicemails and all the inspirational messages that were being shared from people from all over the world. Dude, the chat was like at a standstill. people were doing like slash tears and slash hearts and showing all kinds of like emotional like emojis, and I sit back and I'm looking at the Twitch platform, and I'm saying like, shoot, man, I was in awe. I was like saying, dude, I lived it. Like I watched it when it aired live. I was a little kid, and I remember that one episode, and I was a little kid and I didn't get it, but it was embedded. The show, the morals, the teachings, the experiences that I would soon encounter, and the Mr. Rogers program prepared me for all of these difficult situations that I would come into play into my life. And a lot of the stuff was like how to deal with like hard situations, but a lot of times it was like good situations. And then to see it on Twitch. You guys, those of you that are watching this in a past broadcast, those of you guys that are, don't understand Twitch, and it was like watching the community that is so cruel and can be so hard on the streamers. You saw everybody just calm down and just like express like nothing but utter love. Just the chat. And I sat back and I'm like, damn, with a smile, like, damn, man, that's my community, man. That's all of us gamers. Every one of these son of a guns in the chat. There's like hundreds of like young adults, Generation X, boomers, like Generation Z's, just all of us were all together. And not only that, but people were tagging each other in the chat, because some people actually took the time to read other people's comments, and they were communicating and agreeing with each other and saying, dude, you remember this part and you remember this and this, like, oh my God, like I started showing this to my kids, and people were telling stories inside the chat as it was going like 100 miles an hour. People stopped and took the time. Sitting back in the chair that day was that kind of time where I'm telling you, you had to be there. And for those of you that have a child and that's all they do is talk about Twitch and talking about video games, we're not all about that. There's more. If your kid's in a chat room and you're thinking that they're not going anywhere in life, I want you to really, really think about what your next step is, because that child, that young adult, is on a platform where there's people of all creeds, in all ages, and all kinds of experiences, good and bad, that have one common passion. And that is being on that platform as like a power user, that which it may. They all have passion, even though there's people that don't dislike each other and all that, but there's this inner peace that we all have And that day we all united, as the title of my Twitch channel really represents, United Styles, right? But yeah, the teachings of that taught me how to deal with racism, taught me how to deal with segregation, taught me how to deal with listening first.
Hello. Would you like to have a roll in the hay? Jen _ Daddy to your decks 15 do it. It's fun. Mr. Rogers.
Now that it is. Thank you for the bits. Jen is Daddy threw in some bits, but it also helped me out with knowing where the bits are going. Yeah, when he passed away. I gotta fix that. I hope you guys actually heard that. Did those of you guys in the live stream right now, did you guys hear that through your speakers, or did you hear it through my microphone? Because unfortunately, for some reason, the notifications.
Son of a bitch. Jen _ Daddy. Just join the crew.
Okay. All right. Thank you. We have a new member. Jen is Daddy. Welcome, man. Yeah, they're coming through my speaker. I need a professional sound man. But I'll think at the end. I'll fix it at the end. I'll see what's going on and why it's just coming through my PC speakers and not through the actual stream itself. There's much more I can say about Mr. Rogers, but it through the microphone. Okay. I don't want to go about fixing it live on the stream, so I'll deal with it. I'll deal with it. I'll probably turn up. Oh, huh. I know why. Because maybe I gotta plug in my headphones. Boys and girls, that is 7 years of broadcasting experience. Even with that much experience, you can drop the ball. But that was a silly mistake. And that was cool to have that happen live. That's freaking awesome. But I want to tell you guys, those of you that don't know who Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood is, or maybe you're listening to this and maybe you want to introduce this to your kids and maybe you're not sure, because nowadays kids, they're at a faster pace of learning, and the Mr. Rogers Neighborhood was very calm and collective and slow paced, and really took the time to explain things. And honestly, I think deep down inside, I think that's what helped me be very calm and not get nervous. And I do get nervous. I do. And I panic and I stress out and all that, but not as much as I see the everyday person get on edge. The Mr. Rogers show was it was just its thing. But the thing that impacted me the most was the this the portrayal of Mr. Rogers in real life. Was that's who he really was in real life. When I grew up, I would see him on television doing stuff outside of the television show, and his tone of voice, his actions, his speeches, everything, his whole aura was even true to his show. So once again, as I grew up, I said, son of a bitch. This dude, when somebody says, that dude is real, and I talked about this, being real in past broadcasts, but let me tell you something, man. The boss, when it comes to being real, is no rappers, is no gangsters being real to the streets, or however you've experienced the term being real. The baddest motherfucker to be real, dude, was Mr. Rogers. Yeah. You have to excuse my pauses, man, because it gets pretty, emotional. Why? Why? You get emotional, but because he's gone. Yeah, man. That dude was fucking badass. I guess, I want you guys to, go back. There's lots of ways to go and still, go back and watch his shows. They're all for free. You can go to, you can go to Twitch and go back to Twitch and watch his past broadcast and watch clips and highlights, and I think even what's that word that they use when the royalty rights are non-existent anymore, and you can go and watch and listen to a song with no copyright infringements and stuff like that. The public domain. You can go to any public domain service and man, just kick back and play it for your kids, and even play it for yourselves, man, when maybe that's it, man. If you're confused and you don't know how to talk to your kids, or you're having a bad time in a relationship, or you're just confused in general about a lot of things, dude, don't be shy, man. Freaking go and watch a couple shows from Mr. Rogers. Even if you're an old goat like myself, do it, man. Freaking scroll through the titles of what he gave to us, and kick back and absorb his knowledge. absorb his wisdom. And he was all about being very aware of everybody. And that's pretty much the key in life, man. Be aware of your surroundings and understand what the fuck's going on before you open your mouth and start doing stuff. Even when you think you're doing it with a good heart. Just be mindful of what you do. There's a time and place to know when your presence is needed, even when it's you think you're doing a good deed. Just know your place. But that was that. That was Mr. Rogers. And that's how Mr. Rogers, in a sense, changed my life. I didn't know it as a kid, but when I grew up, some of the things that I do is in thanks of him. The other show that I wanted to talk about was... I know I said chronologically that I would talk about this, but I was talking in regards to chronologically mentioning this stuff as it was presented to me in my life. And these next two shows kind of happen simultaneously. So how it all starts is, I'll give you the titles. The first one is Giggle Snort Hotel. And 90% of you are probably gonna go like, excuse me? But yes, there was a show called Giggle Snort Hotel. And at the same time, I watched a show called Doctor Who. But let's talk about Giggle Snort and how that happened. It all started with a friend of mine named Steve. And this was a very interesting time in my life because it was the time when I was knowing that I had many friends. And during the times when I developed best friends. Oh, that's right. Chava was with me having dinner, and he said that he was trying to figure out how to do the subscribe thing. That is right. Chava, you missed my discussion on my experience with Mr. Rogers, and I hope you caught that. But if you didn't, go back and I hope you go back and watch that because I can't repeat it because it got too emotional in a such of a positive way that I can't go back. I think everybody here knows why, but So Giggle Snort Hotel. I'm talking in regards to shows that changed my life that made me who I am today. So the first one I talked about was Mr. Rogers, and the second one was called Giggle Snort Hotel. Giggle Snort Hotel was a show. This show was like once again, it was like syndicated for children. Kind of like Sesame Street. And I was watching Sesame Street, but Giggle Snort Hotel was something that. But by the way, I have to correct myself. I said Mr. Rogers started in like 75. I think I was watching it like in at a later time. I think that's why I said 75. But that show started in like roughly around 1966 and 62 in Canada. But going back to Giggle Snort Hotel, it was created by it was created by Bill Jackson, and Bill Jackson was this masterful genius, man. He was like a oh my god, why not? What? Oh, when you were watching Giggle Snort Hotel, maybe. But Bill Jackson was those of you guys in chat, you might want to Google this for me, but I forgot the name of the guy who started all the Muppets for like Sesame Street and the Muppet Show. The guy that made Kermit the Frog and all that. Anyways, I feel ashamed that I don't remember his name, because one of my most favorite songs in the world he created, he wrote. But yeah, Bill Jackson started this children's sitcom show, called Giggle Snort Hotel. And it was shown to me by my friend Steve. Now, back in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago, I don't want you to think, in downtown, we would have a ritual, if you may. So he bought this house, and I moved in. I was a roommate with another good friend of mine. We were all, and I was finally understanding like what friends meant. I had friends, and I had the best friends. But when I moved into this house with my friend Steve, we started this kinship, this brotherhood of sorts. And this is a story that I can tell at a future podcast, but just for the moment of this TV show. We coined ourselves the members. And it was a small group of us, like maybe about total of like 5. And we did everything together other than shit, shave, and shower. and sharing girlfriends. But everything else, we were inseparable. We did everything together. We partied. We ate. None of us ever went out. We all went out together as a team. Whenever we wanted to go to a restaurant, we all collaborated and would make phone calls and make reservations. We walked into places never having to search for anything because it was already there for us. We wanted to buy something at a store, we called ahead and make sure that it's at the counter. We walked in like bosses. Oh, yes, Mr. So-and-so. Yes, your order is here. We buy it and we walk out because time was of the essence. Because we were a group of individuals as the members that would throw grand parties. Okay. And we would have this ritual of once we decided how we were going to have the party, we would prepare ourselves. And one of these ways of preparing for the party is that we would watch Giggle Snort Hotel. Okay. To get us in the mood. To get us happy. To bring back our childhood and just be at ease and have a clean slate of all the craziness that's going to happen later on tonight during the parties. At least that's how I perceived it That's how I took it, and that's how I experienced it. And Giggle Snort Hotel was just one real human in this show, Bill Jackson. And he created all these puppets that originated inside this hotel. And there was all these little drama stories that would go about. But some of these stories were very similar to like a Mr. Rogers learning curve of sorts. And it was like a sillier way of learning the ropes of life, learning the do's and don'ts, learning the consequences of your actions. And I remember one particular show, well, where all of the residents of the hotel were going about their daily business and going through their trials and all of a sudden it panned over to like a spaceship. And there was this huge, like, monster looking alien flying the spaceship. And it had a companion named Filthy. And the alien would say, "Filthy? Where is that sniveling goof off?" and Filthy was this scrawny looking puppet that looked like it had just a simple like cloak on, and its hair was all frizzy, and it was just hanging around in the garbage because this alien would love to collect garbage. He was a fiend of it. He was obsessed with collecting garbage from planet to planet. And but he wanted to make a pit stop on Earth, where Giggle Snort Hotel is, and, or in this universe of where Giggle Snort Hotel resides. And he wanted to. Filthy. The boss told Filthy to go out and investigate because he wants to decide where to dump the garbage. And if he dumps this garbage, it would ruin the planet. So Filthy starts investigating, and he bumps into one of the residents, a female residents of the hotel, and he falls in love. So what had happened is, what I learned is that sometimes you can have a boss and sometimes you can have a good friend, and you tend to follow their desires and their wants and their needs, and you look up to such a person. And then there comes a time when you finally find something that you cherish, but yet your friend that you look up to wants to do his dastardly no-gooder, deeds, and you put your foot down. And in this case, Filthy fell in love with this human, with this puppet, if you will, and wanted to escape the clutches of his boss that was infatuated with all of this garbage, and the boss is like, filthy, just because the boss was so used to Filthy being, to groveling at his feet at every moment his heart desired. And he never returned to the boss, because he knew if he returned, he would have to reveal his findings, and the boss would know that it's okay to dump the garbage on the planet. I don't remember all of the details, but I do remember the consequences of him falling in love and disobeying his friends or his boss's commands. It was a great show. It taught, stuff about cheating, playing a game, and doing it the cheater way, and the consequences of how people will feel about you, and very basic common sense stuff. But as we were throwing these parties, we would watch all of the episodes, and I think there was roughly around like 75 episodes that aired on television, and I think we pretty much almost watched all of them. But that was our guilty pleasure that we would watch. It was such a weird experience because we're a bunch of hardy, easygoing guys, and we're watching this little kids show. We're all on the couch smoking cigars and drinking brandy. If someone would have recorded those moments and I could play it for you today, it would have been a spectacle. It would have been like, look at this. These middle-aged guys, late 20s, 30s, smoking cigars and drinking fancy liquors, and they're watching a kids program, and they are literally enjoying it. They are just dumbfounded with like how happy they are watching this show, because it kind of just reminded us of the simplicity of how things can be resolved if you just take your time and pay attention. And the show kind of put us in check, and it brought up situations that kind of helped us resolve in the future certain things that would happen at the parties, But there was one character in Giggle Snort Hotel that was called the Blob, and the way he talked, I'm gonna show you the sounds that the Blob made. So, Bill Jackson would on the fly during the show would create the Blob. If the Blob was happy, he would instantly on the fly on camera start making the Blob in the emotional state that the Blob was in. He would ask a question and then he'd mold him real quick because the Blob wanted to answer, but in a happy tone. And the Blob would say something like this, so Blob, what did you think of dinner last night? Well, it was awesome, wasn't it? And then the Blob would reply, just simple comments like that. But then, Bill would say, oh man, I really feel sorry for you, Blob. You feeling okay? And then the Blob would reply, it was so simple, comical, and just, it was simple, man. Just simple, common sense stuff that anybody would understand, like what's going on. And it was all created by one person. He had all of these amazing ideas, and it made you feel like okay to use your imagination and put it out there. People are gonna get it. People are gonna understand if you really put your mind to it. Yeah, Morgan Vibes jumping in the chat and asking me off topic, have I played the hottest new game, Among Us? But the thing is, like, Among Us has been out for a while. It's not new. You might think it's new because all of the top streamers are pushing it, shoving it down your throat. Man, I don't let that propaganda, man, fool me, dude. I looked at it. I seen it. It's been out for a while. I don't know why people are saying that it's new. But yeah, but that's pretty much like sums it up. But later on in life, I found out that the show is actually in a museum in Chicago, and you can actually go see the Blob in a glass casing, which is quite interesting. But it segued into like some other shows. Like I think one of the characters on Giggle Snort Hotel, one of the characters that lived in the basement, which was like the dungeon for this character called like Dirty, but he was a dragon, but they called him Dirty. It was cool. Yes, Morgan. Yes, scratch the new. That game that Morgan is talking about. I do believe it's the game where you have like a whole bunch of players. It's a multiplayer game where you go about doing some maintenance on this ship or something. You're on some kind of ship or something, cargo, and you're doing repairs, but you can murder, you can kill other players. And what it is kind of like the game of like Clue, and everybody has to get together and everybody has to talk about it, and everybody has to say well, who was where and when and why, and then people have to kind of stand their ground and protect themselves verbally and say, I was doing this and explain it. It's like a big detective like murder case, but you do have like obstacles that you have to do as a team. It's kind of like the trials and tribulations of like a murder as these events are going on. So there's a bunch of tattletelling, there's a bunch of narcs, there's pointing fingers. It gets quite amusing, but then it gets dull after a while. But my lies in deceit, pretty much. It's the replay value of it, I guess, has its little niche. Because the game, the mechanics of the game is always the same, but the situations will always be different. The people that you play with will always be different. So, like like right now is just like all of the top streamers are playing it. But let me tell you something. What's really going on? And I don't have proof, but this is how it usually goes on Twitch. There's a game that catches on, and the developers are like, you know what? We're on the border of maybe having a little bit of success with this. You know what? Let's go ask the top streamers. Let's throw some money their way and ask them if they will play with this other big streamer and that other big streamer, and we'll pay you guys. And then when people see you guys playing this game, all of the regular Joe Schmoes are going to want to play it too. And then that'll rack up our sales, and we'll be able to tip you more to play the game more. And I want you guys to start posting YouTube videos about it and hype it up. But it's a simple little game. It's nothing amazing. There's nothing really amazing about it. It's just a simple little easy game that a whole bunch of people can play at the same time. There's several games that were like that. It's just this one looks a little silly. It looks funny to play. All the other ones were like more serious like. visually. I mean, yeah. But going back to the original topics of the podcast, the last show that was also another little ritual that we would watch before our parties was a show called Doctor Who that impacted my life even to this day. Even to this day, I anticipate and I'm at the edge of my seat whenever there's a new Doctor Who show is about to come on. And those were the first times I experienced this show at Steve's house. We would watch an episode before the parties, light up the cigars and pour the brandies and critique it. And but this show, if you didn't know the show, Doctor Who, to sum it up, it was pretty much like it's a sci-fi show, you know. And not only that, but it was a program produced by the BBC. So there was no American actors in it, and you know, of course, you had the English accents, the British accents, the Scottish accents, and the tone of the comedy was very different than the comedy of the United States. So a lot of people already took like, since it wasn't an American show, most Americans shy away from it. But it did succeed, and it crossed over. And when it aired in the United States, you know, I wasn't there. You know, I really wasn't. I didn't know about the show when I was younger. But when I grew up, and like in my early 20s, I found out about the show. But how it changed my life. This show, Doctor Who. I hear the comments of like, oh yeah, that corny B-rated sci-fi show. You know, and I let it slide because I just, yeah, like, why argue? They just didn't like it. Okay, yeah. But then again, people, the Americans liked the B-rated sci-fi shows of Lost in Space, and people liked the B-rated shows of Star Trek. It was just silly to me how just because it was a BBC broadcasted show that they were discouraged and acted like barbarians about it. And but that didn't deter me. You see, there you go. The goat says, "Who the hell likes Star Trek?" There's this little video that I watched in regards to Star Trek. There was this Star Wars gathering for like one of the new movies, the expanded movies that came out. So there was a big wedding that was going on during the. Okay, so there was a theater. The new Star Wars movies were coming out, and everybody's waiting in line. But there was actually a wedding that was being placed in the line of people of Star Wars. So they made arrangements that they want to get married while they're waiting in line to go see the movie. It was very interesting. But when this was happening, somebody decided to dress up as Spock from Star Trek. I think he pulls up in like in a limousine or something like that, and has a grand entrance, bodyguards and whatnot. And he steps out of the car and he looks at all the Star Wars nerds and all the guests of for the wedding. looks at them, and Spock always had his hands behind his back and very calm and collective with his chin up and observing his surroundings. And then he lifts up a hand and gazes at the crowd, and all of a sudden fixes his hand to a middle finger and presents it to everybody that's in front of him with a calm and collective pose. He fingers everybody, middle finger to everybody, and then puts his hand back and gets him back into the car and drives away. But Doctor Who was in its own like the Star Wars geeks and the Trekkies. They never messed with the Whovians, as you call them, the people that like Doctor Who. Doctor Who had people had an understanding of what Doctor Who meant, what it represented. When I started watching the shows, it was during the Fourth Doctor, and everybody has their favorite Doctor. So what it was this intergalactical race of humanoids that were called the Time Lords, and they figured out the way to control time, and they invented these traveling. They developed a vehicle of sorts that would help them travel through time, but they wouldn't abuse the time. They would just be observers, like how in the Marvel universe they called them the Watchers. But the Time Lords created a spaceship, if you will, and they called it the TARDIS. Of course, it was all abbreviations, and I can't remember all of the, each letter represented something like a part of the vehicle. Like I know the T was, I think it was like time, intergalactical. You get what I mean. So you had this rebel Time Lord that was coined at Doctor Who, that stole the TARDIS and started observing the universe, or observing the cosmos at his whim, with no permission. And many things had happened. So you got to realize, I'm watching a show here of a Time Lord that has the control of time. Therefore, his intelligence surpasses everything and anything that even exists in the cosmos, and that will exist. This is a character that seen the beginning, middle, and end of everything, and comes back and tries to resolve the issues with a simple screwdriver and cleverness. Never shoots a gun. Never cusses. Never shows like dramatic anger towards anybody. And these shows brought up situations that were once again tough, like on how Mr. Rogers was talking on how to resolve things. But these were somewhat more dramatic than Mr. Rogers, because it was a It was on a grander scale. The budget was much bigger, even though it was a bit B-rated back in the days. But this doctor would always have a kind heart towards humans, and therefore always had a companion. And these companions would always be a crutch in some way to the doctor. Kind of always keeping the doctor in check. Because you got to realize the doctor is like a one above all. And sometimes his intellect and would he would be bending the rules of the cosmos one too many times, and sometimes the companion would help him put him in check, even though he was all powerful and all clever, and sometimes he just needed to let it be, as the Beatles song goes. Just let it be. Let things be. You can't. It's not necessary to fix everything. It's not necessary to resolve everything. Let it be. But in every episode, there was it was just a little kind of like a play with his power of what he can bring, a little bit of peace of wherever, peace and harmony to wherever he went. And it was a show of that taught me a great understanding of just there's a lot of things going on in the world, and a lot of people are living a life and making decisions, and it's so hard to explain because you go through his pain. The show expresses his pain because he's seen the end of time. He knows the consequences. He knows the results of everything that he encounters. And there's people that love him. People want to be around him and all that. But he knows deep down inside that everyone is going to be gone. And everybody, and he's going to be the only one left in time, all alone. And the cosmos is his playground, but he takes it serious. And in other words, he's trying to make the time that this person or that monster or that they live the best time that they can, and he wants to be sure that that happens. And I took that show into consideration a lot on a day-to-day basis, every day. I would always say that silly comment about what would the doctor do in the early days of sometimes when I would run into an issue situation. What would the doctor do? It helped me. It helped me become a person to just sit back and resolve a situation and put all of the scenarios together. And a lot of times, at the very end, sometimes I just had to let it be, or not to get involved, and only answer what I was technically asked a question about. it's Doctor Who taught me about the importance of sharing information in the moment. Because if you share the true answer sometimes to people, they're not ready. Most people are not ready for the truth. I'm not saying, to tell a lie, but just tell them what's necessary. Tell them what they need to know. Tell them what they need to hear in order for them to progress. Nothing more. And it kind of sounds kind of mean and all that, but it's just it's almost like the Doctor Who show helped me realize that sometimes it's best to just be a servant to the world with just a little bit at a time. If you just give everything you got all at once, it's going to be so overwhelming, and it's going to be, in the end, less effective. It's kind of like maybe cherishing the moment of how you help people, a little bit at a time. And that will jog the memory of people around you, little by little. It's not like you're training people on how you help them, but it's just you want them to cherish those little moments with you. Those little treats of being kind to people here and there, and then people will start remembering, and people will start sharing good stories, and then hopefully those good deeds of what you do on a day-to-day basis, eventually it'll trickle down to them wanting to do onto others. Doctor Who is very hard to explain because it's a show that's been it's been around for a long time. I think I wrote some notes on when it started. 1963. So, and it's still going on to this day. And that show has made me cry. That show has made me laugh. That show has given me inspiration. And I talked about inspiration for a while, and it takes time for inspiration to click in, to finally, make you make a decision in life. One of the things that it taught me was the word of fear. I always saw fear as a negative. I think I have a Bruce Lee shirt that mentions fear, and I think it's taken wrong. Let me look for this shirt, and let me do like a commercial break. And by the time the commercial's over, I'll have this shirt to show you guys and compare what the Bruce Lee shirt says, and then compare it to like what Doctor Who talked about fear. That was weird. Couldn't find it. But welcome back. For those of you that had to deal with the commercial. But yeah, I have this Bruce Lee shirt that says like fear is for the weak or something along those lines. So I was watching this Doctor Who episode, and the Doctor was a very young boy at this time, and one of the companions goes back in time and is trying to understand the Time Lord at a very young age, and the companion notices that the Doctor is scared. And then the companion comes in, tells the kid, because at this time the kid thinks that he's, the Time Lord is thinking that he's hearing voices underneath his bed. To make a long story short, the companion is time traveling too, but accidentally bumps in to the Time Lord, but when he's a little kid, and the companion notices that he's scared about something, and then the companion says, "Close your eyes. You know, I'm a friend." In other words, puts him at ease, and then starts whispering, crawls out of the bed, I do believe, or something like that, and starts whispering some wisdom about fear. And it said roughly, it's okay to be afraid. That's your secret power. Fear gets you prepared. It gets the blood pumping, and it makes all of your senses more keen, more aware of your surroundings. It's your power. Fear is your power working, making you much more stronger than you were before. Don't be afraid of fear. You know, it's just that tingling feeling of your body becoming the best at what it can be in a given moment when the time comes. And of course, you know, the show explained it in a much more heartwarming and dramatic way, but I'm trying to sum it up here. That after I watched that show, I sat back and I thought about all the times when I was scared and fear was kicking in, and I was like, yeah, you're right. When I'm scared, I'm prone. I'm ready. I'm ready to run. I'm ready to be stronger than what I was prior to not being scared. Nothing will jump at me. I'm ready. I'm ready for anything. And after that, man, I wasn't. When I would get scared, it would kind of put me at ease to know that, okay, I'm scared, and I'm. Well, it's not put me at ease, but it's just that I understand now. It made me pay attention and observe on what's happening to my body when I'm in the state of being scared and stuff like that. It gave me a sense of confidence, even though being scared at the same time. It was a feeling of being like, okay, like accepting it and knowing that it's natural. But that's pretty much what I wanted to discuss for the podcast. Let me go back and look at my notes that I made for myself. And yeah, pretty much what I had. Notes about the 3 shows that developed, that helped me develop the personality that I have today. So we'll call it a day on this podcast, and I'll see you next time.